At the Golden Globes, Angela Cross was so drunk she could barely stand on her feet. Tina, her 12 years old daughter, looked at her mother with tears in her eyes. She couldn't bring herself not to sob. When are they going to get home today? How long is Mom hanging out here? So eager to go to bed already. Time is running out. It's 9 at night. Angela's a mess on the dance floor. The bar is filling up with guests. A couple more drinks and Mom wouldn't be able to control herself at all. Tina pulled a notebook and colored pencils out of her bag and to calm herself began drawing a portrait of her stepfather. The man looking back at her from the drawing looked very much like his prototype. A broad, good-natured face, thick red hair, a strong-willed chin, compressed sleeves, and bright blue eyes. Angela came staggering over to the table. She stared at the portrait with cloudy eyes and then screamed. The woman grabbed it off the table, ripped the sheet out, and started stomping her feet. Tina was helpless and confused. Tears flowed from her eyes again. She couldn't say a word. "Do you know, daughter," Angela said in a mocking tone, "that the bastard blocked all my cards and we have no money at all?" She shouted, then sighed, throwing her chinchilla coat over her shoulders. Angela was angry. Gordon twisted her into a sheep's horn. She has been addicted to alcohol for a long time and had been drinking all through her pregnancy. He deprived her of all her funds. Thank God that she had enough cash for a nightcap. When they left the bar, there was a starry sky over New York City. It was snowing outside. The first of the year, snowflakes fell on the girl's heated face and melted, mixing with her salty tears. She looked at her mother and sighed, secretly glad she was out of money. Thanks to that, they will get to the apartment tonight after all. The one Gordon had given her mom before he married her. After finding a few hundred in her pocket, Angela called a cab, and a half an hour later, they were in their apartment. She threw off her coat with difficulty, leaving it on the dusty floor in the hallway, and slumped on the sofa in her boots and a hat. Tina took a deep breath and forced herself to calm down. Who better to clean up her rooms than her? She took her time undressing and carefully hung her clothes in the closet, picked up and shook her mother's fur coat and placed it next to her jacket, pushed the bag aside. They were given the essentials. The rest, Gordon said he'd pass on with his driver later. Tina went into the kitchen and washed her hands thoroughly with a soap and water. Then she cleaned up. She found large garbage bags under the sink, collected bottles and food scraps from all the rooms, wiped down the furniture, and mopped the floors. Her mother lay curled up on the white sofa and never moved. Tina brought a self-value blanket from her bedroom and covered Angela. She looked the front door and looked around. It wasn't perfect, but it was in order. Tired and satisfied, Tina went to bed. Then, for a whole year, Tina had disturbing dreams in that apartment, though her life was becoming measured, similar to the way it had been before she met Gordon. Back then they were poor. Mom was an extra for obscure directors, and she had to live with an older man so she wouldn't be destitute. It's the way she's always lived, even before she was born. And she had produced her daughter in order to attract a rich man. But he took a paternity test, and all of Angela's dreams come true. The girl wasn't his daughter. Angela had been with a lot of men, but they were quick to break up with her. Those relationships were too turbulent. Her unpredictability, her hot temper, no one wanted to tolerate her. Only Gordon saw in the young woman some kind of charm that he alone knew. And he forgave, accepted. Why did she want so unbearably to spite her husband? Because he was better, nobler, kinder than she was. Yeah, nothing can fix Angela, Tina thought bitterly. Meanwhile, Mom's belly was rounding out. Every day, the freshest food was delivered to the apartment, all paid for by Gordon, of course. He gave her some money too. Angela was furious that he had deprived her of cards and cash, but she still found ways to get drunk and save money. The girl never heard from him again. Only sometimes she read in the newspapers. There, in the photos, he was collected and serious. Tears burned her delicate cheeks, and her heart shrank with longing. But it turned out that being separated from her family wasn't the worst thing that was awaited her and her mother. One evening, Angela received a call from the respectable clinic where she was pregnant with Gordon. The woman was invited for consultation. She was reluctant for a long time, but then, under the pressure of arguments, she agreed. She was met at the clinic by a young nurse and escorted into a large, bright office. She had never been here before. 5 minutes later, the doctor came in, an older, heaviest brunette. He sat down across from Angela. He studied her for several minutes. The woman shivered under his gaze. "Well, explain to me, Mr. Doctor. Why did you call me here? All my tests were perfect. I feel fine. If someone else had so many bad habits, they'd be in your bed more than once. But I'm fine. I'm walking around and I'm gonna have a strong baby. I won't hide it. I abuse it." Angela behaved defiantly, provoking the man into conflict. "You look good on the outside, although the swelling of your face and hands is alarming to me as a professional. I will recommend a follow-up ultrasound as you are about to give birth." "Come on, doctor. I'm still recovering from the last night. I'll be as good as new by tonight. Listen to me carefully. Miss Cruz, I'm a doctor, and I have to tell you this. When you had your last good test results with us, they weren't yours. We only recently found out that they were mixed up at the front desk, but unfortunately, your real labs are bad." "All right. Tell me what you discovered." The woman giggled. "We have identified a rare, hereditary chromosomal disease in you." The doctor blurted out sharply. "What are you doing?" The woman laughed even louder. "Are you trying to convince me that such a young and beautiful woman is sick and infirm, and the child will be sick too? In vain, I have no money. My husband paid for the treatment, a wealthy man, not just sick, but terminally ill." The brunette frowned. "I'm afraid you have only a few months to live." Angela got up from her chair and paced nervously around the office. She wiggled and laughed loudly. "They invited me here to make fun of me. They siphon of money." "What a clinic. Are you sure you didn't mix up anything this time?" "Let's repeat the analysis, shall we?" the doctor suggested nonchalantly. "At your expense. They're your mistakes. I'm completely healthy. I'm 100% sure of it." "Okay, Miss Curtis. Come with me. We will retake the tests." The woman spent about 2 hours in clinic. She brought the transcripts of the new tests, and the doctor again explained the dangers. Angela laughed and laughed. In this hysteric, she tried to drown the reality she had discovered. She could not realize that a terrible tragedy had broken into her life of pleasure. The woman returned home sobbing and exhausted. She collapsed on the floor in the hallway and sobbed. Mom, what's wrong with you?" Tina was frightened. Angela was silent for a few moments and sat up. Her eyes glazed over, and with just her lips, she whispered, "Honey, I'm dying. Can you believe it? I'm dying. That's what the clinic told me." "It can be they have made a mistake," cried the girl, and her body began to shake with trembling. "Mommy?" She threw herself on the woman's neck. "I will save you, Mommy." "No chance, darling. I'm sorry." Tina covered her face with her hands, and Sarah gripped her. "What to do now? How do I help my dearest person? And Angela gave up altogether. She started drinking heavily and soon she looked like a bum. She stopped taking care of herself and forgot all about Tina. When Angela arrived at the clinic where she was seen for the next appointment, she wasn't recognized. She did not have any documents with her, and no matter how much she assured that she was Miss Cross and was being sure here, she was not allowed beyond the reception desk. She could not stand the insolence of the nursing staff and made a loud scandal, thus compromising herself completely. 2 large nurses took her out of the building under their arms, leaving her on a bench around the corner. They looked at the woman contemptuously and disappeared into the building. Angela was so upset that she went into labor under the stress. She screamed wildly, but passers-by were terrified and shied away from the woman. She looked repulsive. Then she dialed Tina's number. "Daughter, I'm in labor, and those animals threw me out on the street. I think I'm dying." And she hung up. Tina was terrified and contacted her stepfather. He arrived on the scene immediately. Gordon was amazed at the change that had taken place in Angela. She had gone from a beautiful, sexy woman to a tramp with greasy hair and dirty clothes. But it was still his Angela. Gordon picked her up decisively in his arms and carried her into the clinic. He was immediately recognized there. "Mr. Mayer?" Doctors with surprised faces scurried around. "I'm sorry, who is this?" They were asking about Angela. "Wife," he replied, "and I think she's in labor." He gently lowered Angela onto the gurney, and she was wheeled into the delivery room. A few hours later, little Jack Cruz was born. The next day, the doctor came into Angela's room. He looked at her with his brown, almost yellow eyes and mouthed his words. "Congratulations, Miss Cruz. I'm sorry we didn't recognize you. The delivery was uneventful. Your boy is healthy. There was a mistake with your labs. You don't have a fatal disease. Stop trying to make me feel better. Everyday mornings I feel nauseous and gargle. My nails are breaking. The hair on my head is falling out. I'm not well, doctor. I'm dying. How long do I have left?" "You are so stubborn. All you have to do is to be a good mom. And your pregnancy and your lifestyle caused all the symptoms." "What? What about the disease?" "It didn't exist. Someone faked your heart details. Let's find out." "Oh, come on, doctor. You're a joke. No one could have been that cruel to me." "Or," Angela faltered, "of course, Gordon could have done it. He has that kind of power." "Wait, what's the motive? Did teach him a lesson for cheating? Will he really do that? Merely murders." The woman couldn't understand how he could deceive her in such a way. Angela was in terrible rage. She ran away from the clinic, leaving a note. She asked her husband not to look for her and to raise her son and stepdaughter on his own. It was hard for Angela to walk away from the man she loved when he had just recently literally saved her. But he had treated her so badly. Both doctors to tell her she was terminally ill. For what? To be honest, she never understood. She loved and hated Gordon at the same time. She pictured him healthy and was glad he was doing well, that he was happy. But to come back? No, never. That man can't hear me. Doesn't understand the pain I've caused. I almost lost my mind. Oh, how cruel he is. Angela remembered Tina's eyes, looking at her with adoration. She'd be better off with Gordon. And so will little Jack, Mr. Mayer, wouldn't betray. Wouldn't leave his children in the lurk like she often did. Where will she go from here? No. Her daughter and son deserve a better life, better future. The young woman walked through the city, not noticing anything or anyone. But soon, her stomach rumbled. She decided to have a snack and went to the nearest supermarket. There she walked among the counters and gazed, stopped at the alcoholic products. No, you can't. I don't drink anymore. She bought a bun and then walked the crowded streets again all day, her thoughts drowning in a deafening resentment. Angela was afraid to admit to herself that she really loved Gordon, and she desperately wanted to see the sparkle in his blue eyes, to feel the warmth of his strong arms, to hear his low, calm voice. He is already ingrained in her soul, in her heart, in her blood, and all her betrayals and bad deeds were cowardice. She was afraid that if she threw off this shell of indifference, she would become vulnerable. It was night. The young woman was overcome with a sense of helplessness. She ran into some homeless people. They had lit a fire in a barrel and were warming themselves by it. The woman went to warm herself. The wind was blowing cold when a homeless man started to bully her. Angela responded sharply and turned out to be very rude, and the homeless woman threw herself at her. The fight ensued. The man became indignant and called the police. "Hey you! Stop scratching!" the stray hissed. "You're hurting me. I will hit your heart," Angela said. The assailant laughed gutturally, then abruptly turned and ran away. A patrol car arrived and Angela was taken to the station. The woman's anger, burning eyes, and disheveled hair spoke of the fact that she had not left her opponent unharmed. "We can't let you go," the policeman told her. "You were involved in a disturbance." "But I didn't do anything. I just flared up in response to the insults." "Why were you attacked by that street lady?" "To be honest, I was pissing her off." "Why?" "To take away the pain in my soul." A police officer sitting at his desk trying to get her to talk. Angela suddenly asked, "Where has all this gotten me?" There was a deep bitterness in his gaze. The man caught sign of this and said, "Please, tell me what happened." The woman took a deep breath. She opened up the policeman all about her situation, about the fight on the dark street, about what was before her, and how she had been cruel to her loved ones. It was a real, sincere confession, and the officer did not interrupt her. Only when she was silent did he summarize. "Let me call your husband. He's looking for you. He was here the other day, Miss Cruz." Angela nodded and burst into tears. She wanted madly to go home, to her own, to her lover and her children. The policeman looked at the woman with respect and understanding. There was no shadow of contempt in his gaze. He must have seen more than that. He understood that sometimes hidden pain made people fight with their fists to overcome doubts and disbelief in themselves. He took a small sheet of paper from his desk and began to deal a number. Gordon drove up to the police station. He was very nervous. It made the sweat on his forehead. When he entered the room, he saw his wife sitting on the hard bench with her head down. Her gaze was blank and lost, and her hands nervously twisted the edge of her clothes. The man looked at her with relief. "Found her. Thank God. If she only knew what I've been through those days," he thought. His heart clenched at the overwhelming feelings. "Are you okay?" he asked uncertainly, taking a seat beside her. She raised her eyes, and he saw tears in them. The woman nodded, but it was obvious that it was far from the truth. "Just tell me why. Why did you put me through this ordeal?" she said softly, trying to smile, but her lips trembled. Dark shadows slid across Gordon's face. His lip pressed into a thin line. His hand rested on her shoulder as if to comfort her, to signal that it was time to reveal the cards. His voice was soft, and the words reflected the acquired wisdom he lived by. I wanted you to reflect, to appreciate every second of your life. Too often we waste time on false goals and objectives. So I allowed myself this deception. I lied to save you. He helped you feel the real power and value of every moment. Angela felt that he was telling the truth. Gordon's confessions made her think about many things, about what really mattered. She realized that she was alive now because of that story of her imaginary death. Now that their eyes met, the woman felt everything around them burst into new colors. The understanding of past and present merged into the thread of destiny, promising a future with hope for the best. She took his hand in hers and smiled. You just had to learn to notice it. Gordon looked at her point blank. Is that you all wanted? Angela hugged him, began to gently stroke his hair, and only then noticed how much he had changed during this time. The woman was even frightened, looking at the sad and tired face of her beloved. For a whole year, I thought I was gone for you. I've been putting myself back together piece by piece, and fought the urge to call, to write. I wanted you back all the time, to be near you again. Gordon, it was... But I appreciate the chance life gave me through it all. People make mistakes, and if you make a mistake, rethink. Be a better person, right? Yes, honey. Gordon always realized that his wife needed help and support. He tried everything: persuasion, prohibition, democracy, and realized that the only thing that could stop her from destroying her personality was... It wasn't easy for him to put his plan into action. Morally, he knew that the pain will be companion of them both, but the degree of his desperation was such that he made up his mind. He glanced at his wife. She looked peaceful. So it worked. Oh, thank God. The mayor stepped to the policeman's desk, resolved all questions, and thanked him heartily. You can count on my help and protection in any matter. He shook the officer's hand. Angela looked at her husband softly. Her eyes shone with a kind of unusual tenderness. The man's heart fluttered. Now, more than ever, she needed to feel that she was not alone. He walked over to his wife and held out his hand. So, home? Yes. Tears came to the woman's eyes. Gordon gently hugged his wife, and they left the station.